Hey friend, I have a guided reading for you today. Feel free to gaze at the cards as I'm talking to see if anything tickles your own intuition. Remember, some things might resonate with you more and some things might resonate with you less, but the important part is if you are growing. Let's go ahead and get started. Guiding our readings today, I have Solace. Solace is that bridge between the physical and the non-physical. He's here to help us to be able to figure out how to make that connection between what we want and the reality itself of that want coming into form. Starting out, we have the Nine of Cups, all right? Nine of Cups is that contentment, that joy, that inner, sense of wealth and prosperity and joy that we have, right? You want to start from this energy of contentment and joy and satisfaction so that way you can use that as the energy and foundation of the thing that you are trying to create. Once maybe you've gone outside, played a little bit, done something that recharges you, really gets you in this good kind of energy, this good emotion, that's when you want to do the more specific focused work with the Magician, right? That's when you direct your thoughts, your energies, your emotions, and your actions toward creating the reality that you want for yourself, right? Now, we want to caution against, trying to focus too much on the things that we don't see, right? The Seven of Swords. When we have the Seven of Swords upright, this individual, he'd be sneaking into the enemy camp to steal the swords so they can't attack at dawn. When I'm looking at the Seven of Swords reversed in this case, it's giving me this impression of we have this desire to kind of try to focus on, I don't see this thing coming in right now. I don't see the reality of my manifestation forming for me. And we want to try to avoid this type of mentality because rather than, using that satisfaction and contentment that we have with the Nine of Cups, if we're focusing on this feeling of want, if we're focusing on this feeling of lack, then we end up creating more of that in our reality. So the universe really wants us to steer away from focusing too much on the things that we don't see yet with our manifestations, because there are, in fact, things that you do have coming in for you right now. The Three of Wands, right? You have created certain realities for yourself, whether it was through, an active, actual, magical act, manifesting something, or, just the result of your day-to-day actions and emotions, right? There are things that have come into you. You have certain amount of blessings. And if you focus on the blessings that are coming in, if you focus on these ships that are coming in, in the Three of Wands, then you're going to create this momentum and start to really pull and magnetize more things toward you. And this is evidenced by the Empress being up next, right? The Empress is this magnetic energy. She creates her reality by bringing things to her, by attracting things to her, right? You're magnetizing things to yourself by focusing on the blessings that you have, right? And she's weaving on this wheel, which has the zodiac on it, if you can see that. Right? She's weaving her reality as it comes to her, not too quickly, not too slowly, just keeping pace with it, right? Each time the universe hands you something that you asked for, each little piece, you put it into place, and then when the next thing comes along, you put that into place, right? And you're starting to build up this momentum. And as, you're starting to bring in these things that you wanted for yourself, even if it's not necessarily the big thing that you asked for immediately, you could start to see progress. You could start to see growth, right? We have the Seven of Pentacles. With the Seven of Pentacles, you have this farmer. Look, he's very contented. He's very happy watching the results of his work, watching his plants come up and start to sprout and really bloom. If you continue to feed the positive feelings, if you continue to bring your attention to the things that you have created for yourself, this is going to continue to water your manifestations, so to speak, right? Watering those plants. And it brings you into this Nine of Pentacles type of an energy, right? You started to create the things for yourself. You're accumulating blessings. You're accumulating your, smaller manifestations, and it all adds up to this larger sense of contentment, this self-made woman or self-made man or non-binary individual, whoever you are watching this, right? You get into this sense of I'm creating this thing for myself instead of necessarily waiting for somebody else to create it for me. And you kind of end up in this energy of hold on, gotta cover this, of the star, right? With the star, she is pouring both onto the land and into the water, right? So the reality is, whenever you're creating something for yourself, whenever you're doing this manifestation, the universe has all these possibilities of how it can be delivered to you. It can be delivered to you in, the form that you envisioned. It could be delivered to you in some other form, but the reality is that the universe is going to give you the blessings in one way or another. It can pour onto the land and it can pour onto the water. It will all eventually work its way back down to the water, though. And the thing is, maybe you get this point, like I said, you've started to create certain things for yourself. You're observing the blessings that you have, really kind of keeping a list and keeping track, so you can kind of look at this bigger picture of, I have this, for myself. And you can kind of celebrate where you're at. You can celebrate the season that you're in with this Three of Cups, right? You enjoying the very process in itself helps the manifestation come into reality, helps the thing become real, because you are, creating less friction when you are, enjoying what you have, and you're adding more energy into, your manifestation to create the bigger thing that you're asking for. And eventually you do get to this tower moment when the thing happens, the epiphany, the aha, the sudden breakthrough, whatever it is. Thing is, when I'm looking at the tower, this kind of makes me think about how lightning actually ends up occurring, right? We, sitting down here on the earth, we're looking up at the sky, and you might see lightning and you think that came out of nowhere. But if you know what happens in a storm is you got all these electrons that are building up and building and building and building until eventually it reaches this critical mass to where now all this energy has to be released through the form of lightning in order for the equilibrium to be regained, right? You're looking at all the small blessings you have. I've got this for me, I've got this for me, this is going right, this is going right. And as the energy, as the momentum builds up, eventually it reaches this critical point to where it has to spill forward. You get that epiphany moment. And this is where things change. This is where you're moving with the cycles. You can go from, maybe you're feeling sad, depressed, kind of meh, whatever, into this state of joy. This is where things can turn in order, for, the reality, the manifestation that you've asked for to be able to come in. And when that does happen, this is where you want to take whatever that epiphany, that experience, the thing, and act on it, right? We have the Three of Pentacles, which would be this artisan working on the temple. There would be the priest that's, overseeing the work, the wealthy individual that's funding the work. The universe will then provide you what you need to create the reality, whether it's that insight to go talk to a certain person or go to a certain place and take a certain action, right? Once the momentum has built up and you have that epiphany or that breakthrough or whatever it is, when you act upon that, that becomes that co-creative process. You're moving with the universe, you're moving with the energy of your manifestation, and you come into this Ace of Wands. You realize that the power is within you, right? We look at this Ace of Wands, it's got the DNA strand here, right? This activation, when the universe finally pours out the blessing that you have been building up toward, you're going to feel it activate you. You're going to feel your own energy be kind of lifted up. Maybe it's, this very exciting feeling, but sometimes it's not necessarily just like this super, overinflated, energetic kind of feeling. Sometimes it's just it feels right. You feel like you really have everything that you need, that you bring your talents to the table, especially, when I'm looking at the DNA strands here. This is kind of this activation of your own potential, your own capacities. You just get this inspiration, this idea, right? And this energy, when you've been activated like that, you realize that you can step away from any perceived limitations. You can, you can step away from, this idea that you don't have the thing. This is when you can take the blindfold off. This is when you know that you can create your reality, right? That assuredness for the bigger picture can in fact come later if you've given yourself the smaller pieces. Like I said, you water the plants, you get the little thing, you count your blessings, that's when you start to realize that you have the potential to create your reality. And then justice comes, right? There's this karmic balance, right? Like I was talking about with the lightning, the electrons, they're building and building and building. And for the equilibrium to be reestablished, there's that lightning strike. So you created this thing, you've created this idea, and you've put so much energy and emotion into it. The universe has to pay it back for you. It has to reach a certain equilibrium for you, right? And we come into this Ace of Swords where you get this clarity, this idea, this understanding of what it is you want for yourself, right? Justice here, she's got this sword, this shining, brilliant ray of understanding of what is right. She's got this, reestablished equilibrium, this power. You have that power, right? And you've decided for yourself, okay, now I know exactly what it is I want for myself, and you focus in on that. And what happens next, right, is that the universe now is going to create situations for you with this Five of Wands to be able to continue to progress, to be able to continue to build up your strengths, your skills, your, abilities, right? And maybe sometimes we might feel that there are certain challenges, but the thing is, these challenges are not in opposition to creating the reality that you want for yourself. They are there to strengthen you, to build your skills, to really refine you, right? If you experience something that you don't want, that contrast can give you an idea of what it is that you do want, what you want to create for yourself. And you realize that the whole world, the whole potential of reality is right there in front of you, that you could create anything you want. We have this individual, the Two of Wands, looking out and going, what are the possibilities? What do I want to create for myself? What adventure lies ahead of me? And we have this Five of Pentacles reversed, right? With the Five of Pentacles, normally you would have these individuals outside feeling left out, feeling they're, not allowed into the temple or into the church. But the reality is they could just walk right around and they find that somebody is waiting at the door, ready and welcome, to welcome them in. You here with this Five of Pentacles reversed, know that you are now participating with reality, that you are not separate from this temple. You're not separate from what is inside. That blessing is very much your own birthright too. You're enjoying the process. You're living life because you started to create this momentum, right? With the Wheel of Fortune here, when you created this reality and something turns in order for you to move into the next stage, in order to move into the next thing, it is a continuous process, right? Like you don't eat one time and expect that you're fed for the rest of your life. You eat each day to sustain yourself. Well, you're moving along with it, right? You're enjoying, you're continuing looking at the blessings that you have, you're continuing looking at the reality that you've created for yourself. And as you continue to build up this momentum, that's when you find yourself finally in this King of Pentacles energy. When you're looking around you and you go, now I've created something stable for myself. I've created something reliable for myself. The wealth that I've accumulated over time, that I've accumulated by adding up the small things until their energy, until their momentum causes it to spill over, that is when you can create something sustainable. That's when your reality becomes something solid and reliable, to where it's no longer like I have to continue to put in the work to, make this thing a reality. You just sustain it. You just maintain it. All right, friends, hopefully this is helpful for you. Remember, you want to start with this positive feeling, start with the positive energy, get yourself into a good emotional mindset. Do your work from there. Count your smaller blessings, every little thing that is part of the bigger manifestation. As you start to notice each individual thing building up and building up and building up, eventually that momentum has no choice but to eventually overflow to create the bigger thing that you asked for. If this video has been helpful for you, I would love it if you would leave a like for me. Drop a comment down in the comment section. If you don't know what to comment, I would love it if you would just drop me a sunflower emoji. Sunflower is a spirit guide of mine that'll let me know that you see me, and that also helps the algorithm a lot to continue to show my videos to others. If you're not subscribed already, go ahead and subscribe. Head into my channel to find a video that resonates with you, and I will see you in the next one.